The cub had been stuck in the acacia tree for 2 days, and the mother lioness hadn't moved from beneath it for a single moment. Jabari spotted them from half a kilometer away, a lioness pacing circles around the base of a massive acacia tree, roaring constantly, her entire body radiating desperate anxiety. And high up in the thorny branches, maybe 6 meters off the ground, a tiny golden shape that wouldn't stop crying. A cub. Stuck. Terrified. Jabari was a Maasai herder in northern Tanzania, checking on cattle that had wandered during the night. At 49 years old, he'd lived alongside lions his entire life. He knew their behavior, their patterns, their sounds. And what he was hearing now was pure maternal distress. He moved closer carefully, staying downwind. As he got nearer, the full situation became clear. The cub, maybe 3 months old, had somehow climbed the tree, probably chasing a bird or fleeing from something. But acacia trees are covered in 3-inch thorns, and the cub had climbed up easily but couldn't figure out how to climb down. Now he clung to a branch, crying nonstop, his tiny claws embedded in the bark. Below, his mother paced, roared, tried jumping up the trunk but couldn't get high enough to reach him. She'd been doing this for 2 days. Jabari could tell by the worn path her pacing had created, by her gaunt appearance. She clearly hadn't eaten or drunk water, refusing to leave her baby even for a moment. And surrounding the tree, keeping a cautious distance, were 5 hyenas. Waiting. Watching. Knowing the cub would eventually fall from exhaustion, or the mother would have to leave for water, or both would die right there. The vultures circling overhead suggested they thought the same thing. Jabari's heart sank. This was nature at its most brutal. Interfering went against everything he'd been taught. But watching a baby starve to death in a tree while its mother died of thirst below wasn't something Jabari could walk away from. He pulled out his phone and called his brother Kamau. "I need help. And I need it fast." 30 minutes later, Kamau arrived with their cousin Lungai and 2 strong ropes. They assessed the situation from a safe distance. "That lioness isn't letting anyone near that tree," Kamau said. "She'll kill whoever tries." "I know," Jabari replied. "But look at her. She hasn't eaten or drunk in 2 days. She's weakening. If we wait another day, both of them will die." "So what's your plan?" "We create a distraction. Draw her away just long enough for one of us to climb up, grab the cub, and get down." "And who's the suicidal one climbing the tree?" "Me," Jabari said. "I'm the lightest and the fastest climber." Lungai stared at his cousin. "You'll die." "Maybe. But that cub will definitely die if I don't try. And that mother will die protecting him. I can't watch that happen." The plan was desperate and dangerous. Kamau and Lungai would approach from the opposite side, making noise, waving cloths, drawing the lioness's attention and hopefully luring her away from the base of the tree. The moment she moved, Jabari would sprint to the tree, climb up, grab the cub, and climb down. "You'll have maybe 60 seconds before she realizes what's happening and comes back," Kamau warned. "If you're still in that tree when she returns, I know. Let's do this before I lose my nerve." Kamau and Lungai moved into position. They began shouting, waving their red shuka cloths, banging a pot with a stick. The lioness's head snapped toward them. She roared a warning, torn between protecting the area and investigating this new threat. She took 3 steps toward them. Then 5. Then 10. Jabari sprinted. The thorns on the acacia tree ripped at his skin as he climbed, but he ignored the pain. The cub saw him coming and cried louder, unsure if this was help or a new threat. "Shoo, little one," Jabari gasped as he climbed. "I'm here to help. Hold still." He reached the cub, a tiny male, golden fur matted with dirt and dried tears. The cub tried to swipe at him with claws that were barely sharp, but Jabari grabbed him firmly by the scruff of the neck, the way mother lions carry their cubs. The cub went limp immediately, the natural response cubs have when carried by the scruff. Then Jabari heard it, the sound that made his blood freeze. The lioness had figured it out. She'd stopped pursuing Kamau and Lungai and was charging back toward the tree, roaring with fury and fear. "Jabari, she's coming!" Kamau screamed. Jabari couldn't climb down carefully. There was no time. Holding the cub against his chest with one arm, He half climbed, half fell down the tree, the thorns shredding his skin, branches snapping under his weight. He hit the ground hard, rolled, kept the cub protected against his chest. The lioness was 20 meters away. 15. 10. Jabari stood and did the only thing he could think of. He placed the cub gently on the ground and backed away quickly, his hands up, showing he meant no harm. He's okay. I helped him. He's okay. The lioness skidded to a stop 3 meters from the cub, her eyes wild, her body coiled to attack. But then she saw her baby, on the ground, safe, alive, moving. The cub cried out and stumbled toward his mother on shaky legs. She immediately began sniffing him frantically, checking for injuries, licking his face, her entire body shaking with relief. Jabari backed away slowly, never turning his back, his heart hammering so hard he thought it might explode. Kamau and Lungai ran to flank him, spears ready in case the lioness decided to attack. But she didn't. She was too focused on her cub, too overwhelmed with relief that he was finally safe. Before we continue, make sure to hit like and subscribe. Where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. Now let me tell you what happened next, because this rescue created a bond no one could have predicted. The lioness picked up her cub by the scruff and began carrying him away toward a rocky outcrop in the distance, probably where their den was located. She walked slowly, exhausted, pausing every few meters to rest. Jabari watched her go, his arms bleeding from dozens of thorn cuts, his body shaking from adrenaline. I thought she was going to kill me. She should have, Kamau said quietly. You took her cub. That's the one thing that makes lionesses attack without hesitation. But she saw you put him down. She saw you back away. She understood you were helping. Lions don't understand things like that, Lungai protested. That one did, Jabari said, watching the lioness disappear into the distance. She knew. Over the next week, Jabari treated his thorn wounds with traditional Maasai medicines. The cuts healed quickly, leaving dozens of small scars on his arms and legs, permanent reminders of the day he'd climbed into a thorn tree to save a lion cub. He didn't expect to see the lioness or her cub again. It had been a desperate moment, an intervention, and now life would go on. But nature had different plans. 2 weeks after the rescue, Jabari was herding cattle near the same area when he heard a familiar sound. The chuffing call lionesses used to communicate with their cubs. He turned and saw her, the same lioness, unmistakable with her distinctive scars and coloring. And beside her, the cub, now healthy and energetic, pouncing at his mother's tail. The lioness was 50 meters away, watching Jabari. Not threatening. Not stalking. Just watching. Hello, Mama, Jabari said softly. I see your baby is doing well. The lioness made that chuffing sound again. The cub looked at Jabari, tilted his head curiously, then ran back to his mother. Then they walked away, disappearing into the tall grass. She wanted you to see, Kamau said. He'd been nearby and had witnessed the encounter. She wanted you to know her cub is okay. I've never heard of a lioness doing that. Neither have I, Jabari admitted. But it kept happening. Once a month, sometimes more, Jabari would encounter the lioness and her cub while moving through the area. She never approached close, never threatened him or his cattle. She'd simply appear at a distance, show him that the cub was growing strong, then disappear. She's checking in, Jabari's wife, Nashapai, said when he told her about these encounters. The way you check in with a friend. She's showing gratitude. 6 months after the rescue, the cub was half-grown, already showing the beginnings of what would become an impressive mane. And something else started happening that amazed the entire village. The lioness's pride never touched Jabari's cattle. When other lions from different prides would raid livestock from neighboring herders, this specific pride would hunt only wild prey. They avoided Jabari's grazing areas entirely. It was as if the lioness had created an invisible boundary. This human helped us, so we don't harm what belongs to him. Word reached the Tanzania Wildlife Research Institute. Dr. Mwangi, a wildlife biologist from Arusha, came to investigate. She set up camera traps and documented dozens of encounters between Jabari and the lioness's pride. What she found was unprecedented. The lioness recognizes you specifically, Dr. Mwangi explained, showing Jabari the footage. Watch this. When other herders pass through this area, the pride behaves normally, staying hidden, showing caution. But when you pass through, the lioness often makes herself visible, shows you her cubs, then moves away. She's maintaining a relationship with you. Why would she do that? You saved her cub from a situation she couldn't resolve herself. Lions have excellent long-term memory. She remembers. And she's teaching her cubs that you specifically are not a threat. This could revolutionize how we think about human-wildlife coexistence. But the most extraordinary moment came 1 year after the rescue. Jabari was walking alone through the bush, scouting for new grazing areas, when he heard sounds that made his skin prickle. Growling. Multiple animals. The distinctive whooping calls of hyenas. He moved toward the sound carefully and found a scene of chaos. The lioness was surrounded by 8 hyenas, her now yearling son fighting beside her. But they were outnumbered and exhausted. One of the hyenas had managed to bite the young male's hind leg, and he was limping badly. The hyenas were closing in for the kill. Jabari didn't think. He just acted. He ran toward the fight, screaming at the top of his lungs, waving his spear, making himself as big and loud as possible. The hyenas, surprised by this human charging into their fight, hesitated. That hesitation was enough. The lioness took advantage of the distraction to launch a fierce attack on the nearest hyena, sending it yelping. Her son, despite his injury, roared with renewed energy. The hyenas, faced with 2 lions who'd gotten their second wind and a crazy human with a spear, decided this meal wasn't worth it. They retreated, laughing their eerie calls as they disappeared. The lioness and her son stood panting, bleeding, exhausted. Jabari stood 20 meters away, equally exhausted, wondering if he'd just made the stupidest decision of his life. The lioness looked at him. Then she did something that brought tears to Jabari's eyes. She walked halfway to him, stopped, and lowered her head, the same gesture of submission and gratitude he'd seen in tame lions, but never in the wild. Her son, watching his mother, mimicked the gesture. Then they turned and limped away toward their den. Jabari stood there for a long time, his spear shaking in his hands, understanding that he'd just witnessed something that shouldn't exist. A wild lioness acknowledging a human as an ally, showing gratitude not once but twice. Dr. Mwangi, when she heard about this incident from Jabari and found evidence at the scene that confirmed it, was stunned. This isn't just memory anymore. This is reciprocal altruism across species. She remembered you helped her. You helped her again. She's likely to remember that too. You've created a multigenerational bond. She'll teach her cubs that you're trustworthy, and they'll teach their cubs. She published a paper titled, Reciprocal Altruism in Wild Lions, a case study in human-wildlife mutualism that included extensive documentation of Jabari's relationship with the pride. Today, 3 years after the tree rescue, the young male is fully grown with a thick black mane of his own. He's established his own small territory adjacent to his mother's, and he shows the same unusual tolerance toward Jabari that his mother taught him. The lioness, now showing her age at around 12 years old, still makes occasional appearances when Jabari passes through. Not as often as before, but enough to maintain the connection. And Jabari's cattle continue to graze in relative peace, rarely bothered by the local lion pride, an arrangement that has made other herders in the region intensely curious. How do you do it? They ask. How do you keep the lions away? I don't keep them away, Jabari replies. I have an understanding with them. I helped them once when they needed it. They remember. That's all. But it's not all. It's proof that the boundaries we draw between human and animal, between wild and tame, between enemy and ally, are more flexible than we think. If this story moved you, share it. Tell us in the comments. Would you risk your life to save an animal in distress? Hit like and subscribe for more stories proving that courage creates bonds, that kindness is remembered across years, and that sometimes the bravest act is refusing to walk away when someone needs help. Because somewhere in Tanzania, an old lioness still walks the savannah, and when she passes through one particular Maasai herder's territory, she remembers the day a human climbed a thorn tree to save her baby, and she makes sure her family remembers too. Sometimes mothers recognize when someone helps their child. Sometimes gratitude transcends species. And sometimes climbing into danger to save a life creates peace that lasts for generations.